A lot of facets to the question that you asked. Fact, the North Koreans just set off another nuclear weapon. Fact, the North Koreans are exporting that technology throughout the world and to Iran. Fact, the Chinese are doing nothing to break their continued behavior and development, not only of nuclear weapons, but they are working hard on a missile that would reach the United States of America. China is doing nothing. China is doing nothing when we want sanctions on Syria and the massacre that continues of some 70,000 people there. I'm sure you may have seen in the paper yesterday or the day before that we now know for sure that cyber attacks are coming from an arm of the Chinese army into our most sensitive secrets, technological and others that they are stealing. The Chinese are, in my view, having a confrontational situation with their neighbors, particularly Japan. China is not acting in the mature fashion that we expect of a world power. And I think we're going to have to get tough on China. And I think that that does not mean that we confront them, etc. But there are certain things that the Chinese want and need from us that I think we should condition to human rights, to their continued cooperation with North Korea, their failure to help us, but particularly the cybersecurity issue. My friends, I'm not trying to scare anybody, but there are ways that cyber attacks could really shut down everything that we do, and could have draconian impacts on our security, our power grids. I mean, anybody who's interested, I could get you information of what cyber attacks can really do in America. So I think that we've got to shore up our alliances with our friends in the region. By the way, our new friends are the Vietnamese because they're scared to death of the Chinese. And make the Chinese understand that there's certain boundaries of acceptable behavior, and currency manipulation is one of them that we are obviously opposed to, and others. The point is, we live in a very dangerous world. And the reason why we talk a little bit about this is because now, at the same time, we're looking at cutting our nation's defenses. At the same time, we see all these events transpiring. The Congress of the United States can act on sanctions in certain areas. We can pass laws that would require certain actions on the part of our government, and obviously now there is even a greater need for it forever. By the way, to show you how bored the Chinese must be, they hacked into my presidential campaign. Now that is really boring. Yes, sir. Go ahead. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Senator. My name is Alan Lazella, and I'm a vet from Nam for 68, 69.
Thanks for serving, my friend.
Thank you, sir. One of the questions that I have, and this goes back to what this lady behind me brought up on Benghazi. Anybody that serves, my best friend to this day happens to be my battalion commander from Vietnam, so I have the privilege of meeting some of the people that you've talked about before. We have CAT teams, crisis assault teams, that can reach any place in the world in 2 hours. Now, Obama disappeared for whatever the reason. Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, I think, you've got to go back. This is the largest cover-up. My question to you, sir, is has anybody ever looked back at why on that night both General Carter Ham, the AFRICOM commander, was arrested? He was told to stand down once, got on a C-130 with 40 Special Forces troops, and was arrested on that aircraft. Admiral Charles Girault went ahead. What happened? He got fired the same night. He would not stand down. Why the media is got to be, their head has got to be someplace where the sun doesn't shine. Why isn't any of this reported?
Don't have a good answer for you except to point out that the President of the United States gave an interview with CBS on the day that he said that he, quote, condemned terrorist attacks. And that night he gave an interview with CBS 60 Minutes. He said, we don't know what the attack was all about. We don't know what was the cause of it. CBS did not release that part of the interview until after the election. You can draw your own conclusions.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Senator, thank you. As a survivor of an active shooting, I would like to talk about handguns. I know that you have been a leader. I've been to your office I've been to your office in DC a couple of times, talked to your general counsel, and I appreciate your affording us that opportunity. A handgun was used in the Tucson shooting. Christina Taylor Greene was shot by the 13th bullet. So the high-capacity magazines do play a part, but I am here just to ask you now to please support the background checks for every gun sale. I know you've been a leader in that in the past, and I do want to thank you for that. A couple of other things. The Supreme Court decided that people were militia a couple of years ago, and I am a supporter of the Second Amendment, but two words that people seem to forget about that Second Amendment is well regulated. And every gun in Switzerland is registered. We don't do that in the United States. Many other countries do. The connection of violent movies and video games, I'm sure that plays a part in some, but there are other countries that watch those same video games, watch those same movies, and they don't have that same kind of action because they don't have access to guns.
They certainly did in Norway.
Well, Norway has one. I'm not going to argue with you about Norway. It's unfortunate. I'm not talking about assault weapons. You haven't heard me say that. I'm telling you that handguns are more of a danger than assault weapons, although they are both a danger. And I would really appreciate your support on every gun sale having a background check, remembering that well-regulated is in the Second Amendment when you are voting. And thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, and thank you.
To get at the back of the line, doesn't that start in their country of origin?
Actually, their people have been here for many, many years, as you know. But the fact is that, what's different from next time? That, as I mentioned in my earlier comments, and that is that we gave that amnesty, and by the way, that was just making citizens, and there are two big differences. One, path can only begin after the border is deemed secure, and second of all, that the requirements are far more stringent and far more demanding, and a very long period of time would elapse before that individual could reach a citizenship. And most of what we're saying does not meet the definition of the word amnesty as much as it is being thrown around. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Yes, right here. Yes,
okay,
yes.
Thank you. Okay. My name is Angelica.
There's it.
I'm a Cuban-American citizen here in this country for 27 years. My question is, number two, why the Congress has not impeached the president, and what else does Congress need to impeach the president?
I do not believe that the president has committed impeachable offenses. That's high crimes and misdemeanors. I would be glad to receive whatever information you have. But I would remind you, and I hate to remind you, I really dislike reminding you, the president just was reelected by a majority of the American people. So all I can say is, let's all be respectful. All I can say is that you have to give credit to the judgment of the American people. As I say, as painful and unpleasant as that for me to remind you. But that's what elections are about. That's what democracy is about. I may not agree with their verdict, but they made a verdict. What's that?
Nixon was impeached for a lot less than what Obama has done.
Actually, Nixon resigned. But the point is
The
that
Congress asked him to resign Okay, we have let Obama get away with a bunch of stuff, and it's like, so what? That's where we are, so what?
Well, one thing I've always enjoyed is the passion of my Cuban friends. And I thank you for your passion, and if you'll drop me a note, I will give you a much more
I
complete.
have, and you have not responded to my letters.
How long ago?
Less than a year.
All right, I'll get it to you, and I will fire one of my crack staff. There's one right here, it's on a work release program. As well as,
So you don't
as
have
they
an
should.
answer, and that's where we are. Congress does not represent us anymore.
Vote them out.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I just want, regarding the presidency, I want you to know that I did make phone calls for you. And unfortunately, Arizona voted for you, but because of voter fraud, Obama continues to get in. It will be proven. My question is about education in history of this country. If we go into registering guns, that's the next step to confiscation. We're the only free country left in the world. And because we have gun rights is why we are free. It is very important to get people to have the history of Czechoslovakia, Germany. What about the Jews, the Polish? All those people believe that none of this could happen to them. And we know it happened, but most people don't have that history. And so we need not only training in guns for people who have them without registration, and we also need history lessons in our schools, which are not teaching any of this now. So my question is, what can you do for us to help us in that area?
Well, thank you very much for your comment. I don't know exactly how to respond except to say that it's part of this conversation we need to have. But I don't believe that voter fraud was a factor, a major factor in this. Now, let's be honest, there are numerous cases of voter fraud in places in this country, and we have to take additional steps to prevent it. But I know of no expert who believes that it was voter fraud that was the major factor in the outcome of this election, and we need to do everything we can to prevent it in the future. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Senator Mccain. My name is Mark Mayhew. I'm a native Phoenician, and I have actually lived and worked in London, England. I have a National Health Service card. I have family in Norway that actually lived less than 10 miles from where the massacre occurred. We live in the
And you have some insight on that situation.
I do indeed. We live in one of the greatest countries in the world, the greatest country in the world. Even in England, no one has the right that we have here to speak the way we do and to have our voices heard and have the Congress listen to us. We recently got Senator Flake voted into the Senate. We have the Senator from Nebraska retiring here. What is the future of John McCain to continue our God's great work for Arizona and for our nation? What is your future? How much longer do you plan on fighting for us?
First of all, could I just ask, tell us a little bit your insight on the massacre in Norway, just your insight on that.
My insight is, where to begin? Just a madman was able to obtain several guns. This is a true story. I was actually in Bergen, Norway at a hotel, and there was a group that came in with Uzis under their jackets. Guns are illegal in Norway, so I was a little perplexed and perturbed. So I started talking to the lady, and she was actually the bodyguard for the Prime Minister of Norway. And